Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for this full moon report. We have a full moon in Libra that is scheduled for Saturday, Sunday, the 28th, 2021, in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, 2:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So late morning on the West Coast, late afternoon east of the Eastern United States. So what we're looking at right now is the chart for the 27th, Saturday, a nice grand cross to really kick off the weekend and also to set us up for this full moon. So we'll talk about that. This full moon, I've been talking about it for a while. It is kind of a whopper. We have the trifecta of the Sun and Venus and Chiron in Aries as the focal point here for a full moon in Libra. And this whole process, we have to go back to the new moon, don't we? We have to go back to the new moon in Pisces and what the intention we set for this cycle, for this lunar cycle, within each of us to understand our dharma, our role within the cosmic order of things, not something that we have to necessarily put into place, but more to resonate with. And this moon in Virgo this weekend and this grand cross that I'm going to explain here in a second is a something's got to give moment with a grand cross. It is all tension and something will break. Something has to give in order to release all of this energy that is all locked together and has a lot of momentum within it as well, a lot of power. So this moon in Virgo this weekend on today's Friday the 26th. I already talked about it in the daily, and through the weekend it really gives us a chance to get very disciplined about our emotion and intuitive fields, how we feel, being very meticulous about that space, being detail oriented, being analytical to a certain extent, being willing to analyze our emotions, being more willing to emotionally, I don't want to say compartmentalize, but Virgo in the sixth house is reconstruction, personal reconstruction, where you completely disintegrate in some ways, go into and under the surface in order to reconstitute ourselves into a different form, really, in a form that is able to bear fruit and seed for the next cycle. If you want to think about it in terms of a growing cycle, like a plant growing cycle, because Virgo time of the year is when the plant is growing all of the fruit, and the fruit is what has the seed for the next cycle. And us as individuals, when we're in the sixth house, this is where the works and the duties and the everyday routine and the things we do on the daily lead to us becoming the fullest version of ourselves when we do enter some sort of commitment, because any shared experience will yield fruit. And that's really what the end of the Pisces cycle is all about, is everything that is yielded as a result of the collective experience. Virgo, its opposition, as we see, and is part of the new moon because it is in opposition to Pisces. And Pisces, we set some intentions around our dharma. Who are we? Who are we not? And what is our role? And how do different people filling their unique individual function work interdependently to create something, as the end of a cycle is starting to consolidate back into a form from its formlessness, which is Pisces. So that's what this cycle is all about. So the full moon is a culmination point. We're going to see a lot, and it's going to be really bright. It's going to be really palpable with Venus, and it's going to be a lot about her wounding of self, and it's going to show us the full picture of who, our desire, to actualize, to have a subjective experience, to just be, that is Aries as an archetype, to just be I. It's a subjective ego consciousness type of experience, and to project out, it's cardinal fire. And there's been quite a bit of Ace of Wands energy coming up in the daily. So this three points coming together for the full moon, and we'll look at the chart. It's not only the full moon, it's so cool. I don't want to ruin it. So we'll just wait till we get there and I can show you these configurations. But leading into it, we have this grand cross with a moon in Virgo that's really going to test us and give us a chance to adjust ourselves and to do the work internally and emotionally to really purify ourselves, because there's a lot of potential eruption here. And when we have a grand cross, it's just something's got to break, right? Something's got to break. But in with Mars in the mix here at the North Node in one of these points, it's also just, there's so much behind it. There's so much drive for us to evolve. There's so much push to go in this direction of the flow of ideas, the flow of information, the flow of our creativity, and the flow of that mercurial energy that Gemini represents, the mind. So, and Mercury is absolutely involved because it's in Pisces and wants to be in Virgo, and the moon wants to be in Pisces. So they understand each other, and there is a connection here where these energies all seem to overlap, but at the same time they are in each other's territories, so to speak. And so we would rather, with Virgo, be much more analytical and mind-oriented and allow the flow of information to be our analysis rather than having to feel that, having it be in a subtle way within us. Whereas the same as with Mercury. Mercury doesn't want to be in Pisces. That means you have to let go of even your movement of information. You have to let go of the thought forms and go much more feeling based and intuitive. So this is important later in the cycle because Mercury and Neptune are going to meet, and this can be incredible divine insight. Oh my gosh, huge, because it's in Pisces, like the most connected to source in terms of inspiration. But if we have not allowed this next 2 days with Passover. I mean, Passover starts on the 27th. I mean, this is kind of a Passover type of configuration in terms of like something has got to give. And what gave in that situation was all of the firstborn children in Egypt just died overnight. Like there is something that you can't get around with that. And you just have to, that is so devastating that it does break open just about everything. And so I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that this grand cross is really going to test us and give us opportunities, especially each of us emotionally and internally, to get ourselves organized and to know who we actually are and purify what needs to be purified. So when we come into this full moon on the 28th, we understand where to put, how do we apply what we've learned about ourselves into emotional balance, peace of mind, relationship, symmetry, all of those things that Libra represents. So we're going to go through definitely the full moon today and this chart. I've already started, and into the full moon, and then look at some of the major transits that are going to be happening, and how there's a thread of connection between the full moon and so much of the way our mind and our thought processes are working. It's a big part of the rest of this cycle because our mind is kind of everything in terms of how we navigate through this world. That is the Gemini archetype, is how, and the third house specifically too, how, your immediate environment, how do you interact with your immediate environment? You have yourself, you have everything else. Gemini is about your nervous system having an experience, and it's about exploration and curiosity, at least in the first half of Gemini. Mars is about to cross the threshold into the second half of Gemini, which is exteriorizing the discovery. And so it's just going to get much more, there's just going to be a lot more forcefulness out and a desire to reach out and to reach up in some ways in terms of our consciousness and our thought processes. So it's coming. And so right now is getting us up to speed with ourselves and something we can anchor into that's actually been successful in the past in terms of creating balance and peace of mind. So with that being said, we'll get a little bit more technical about it. rather than just channeling. So, yeah, the next new moon is the 11th of April. So we're talking about now the 27th up until April 11th. So we're going through Easter as well, Good Friday and Easter. And so next new moon will be the first new moon of the spring or the autumn, wherever you are on the planet. But it'll be the first new moon of the next season, and it'll be a moon in Aries. So we're still wrapping up some things here, and we're still learning about what our role is. And I assure you, this idea that everybody has their own unique, full sovereign role to play in this huge pattern unfolding is very much part of what's going on. And this is what we're coming to understand about ourselves, each of us, so that we can bring the full version of ourselves to the table. With Mercury coming to meet Neptune by the end of this cycle, this is prime territory for just straight up mind control, right? You can just be programmed with this transit so easily if you don't know who you are. And it's okay. Like, there's no pressure here, but just be mindful that the more you put this work off, the more meandering your path is to get to this conclusion, whatever it is. Right now, it feels like we're going up a roller coaster. I love roller coasters. I love them. And so this is the part of the hill that we're trekking up, and it feels like time has been dilating. And so we are going upwards on this time wave. We get to the full moon, which is the crest, right? We have to remember why we came here in the first place, and then it's just going to be the rush of downhill over the next 2 weeks. So let's look at the chart and see what that actually means. I'm sure I could just end it there, and that would be enough to be like, yep, buckle up, guys. But let's look at the natural map of the time wave, so we can see maybe a little bit more specifically what's happening. Okay, so here's our Grand Cross with our Virgo moon. Here we go. With our Virgo moon and with Mercury in Pisces, we have the nodes, of course, of the moon, and then Mars right on top of the North Node. So I already talked a lot about what this Grand Cross is going to be. So you have two oppositions, and they're all connected by squares. So there's all kinds of hard angles, but this is a mutable Grand Cross. And so if you are somebody who has a lot of mutable energy, Sagittarius, Virgo, Gemini, Pisces, and you're specifically around the midpoints of these degrees, you're going to feel it really strongly. The positive aspect about the malleability and the mutability of a square or Grand Cross like this is that it's really easy to make adjustments. It's really easy to, fill a different form, and it's really easy to take a different shape. Like, shape shifting is a big part of all this mutable energy, especially something so tense and locked into place that it can't do anything but just burst. And it will burst, right? I mean, 17 degrees of Virgo is a volcanic eruption. And we know that there have been a lot of earth changes, but this is going to be, a lot within each of us individually where the moon is. And really pull us into this personal catharsis, while Mercury is like, well, don't you see that this is like a peak experience that we're all having together? There's actually something spiritual in nature behind this that we can all get around. And so that you can see where there would be some struggle here in terms of how we feel and wrapping our minds around something. And then, of course, the nodes is just about where we're headed karmically, where we've been karmically. And with Mars here, it's really pulling us to where we're heading, and which is good, but we still have to have the momentum of where we've been in order to get us there. And I'm going to talk about that too when we look at this full moon chart, because it's very connected. But this is all going to this is all about conditioning ourselves individually and personally and emotionally to really get out of our system what we need to, and to also realize that you might be able to rationalize something that's happening that is like a peak collective experience, but internally and individually, it might trigger some things. And so allow that to move through you. This is Passover. This is Saturday. And at the same time, with the nodes, where are we going? I mean, the true node is 14 degrees Gemini. This is still about bridging that gap of telepathy, being able to transcend the normal modes of communication in order to connect to each other or connect ideas simultaneously, right? That is part of the exploratory process, because when you can do that, right, when you can communicate telepathically, you're able to transcend limitations and have a direct connection to each other, or direct connection to the antithesis of your idea. And that has a lot of potential. And Mars is here right on top of it. So it's like, let's go, right? Let's get beyond this. And this could, Gemini is also travel, right? Short-term travel and movement. And it's about the consciousness moving and your nervous system interacting with the world around you and what that produces mentally. So Mars is putting some fire. It's it's like an engine behind it. It's like, let's go. So no matter how you swing it, there's going to be tension, and if we can just just be aware of it, and just let it, Mercury in this case is going to allow for the ability to, it's going to allow for the ability to wrap your mind around, like, whatever's going on is part of a larger peak experience that we can all share in, regardless of how you individually feel about it and how it's manifesting, because it's likely going to be very eruptive on some level and cathartic, but also very purifying and very, very karmic, right? About how we share information, where we're coming from, because this is about exploring new realms, as opposed to Sagittarius, which is reinforcing a collective value system based on everything else up to that point. So we're still very exploratory here. So this is Saturday. Oh boy. So we're going to go forward here to the actual full moon, and then the rest will be just basic, because I cover stuff every single day, and this is the weekend anyway, right? And so, okay, let's see. And it's, there are major things that are going to be happening, and I will highlight them as we go through, but just knowing what is coming, and the full moon, and then leading up to Easter especially, there's certain connections. Okay, this is really exciting to look at. So first of all, here's our full moon, right? The moon in Libra is in an opposition to the sun, to Venus and Chiron, all pretty much within the same whole degree. They're all between 8 and 9 degrees right now. And so within the next, today is Friday, the 26th. So the sun and Venus already came together in an earlier degree. And then by Sunday, they're all going to come together. And then like the sun is going to meet Chiron, and Venus is going to meet Chiron separately. So it'll be like this ripple effect in different ways. But this full moon we're going to see the whole picture of who we are, our desire to create ourselves. It's going to come through in our material realm. It's going to make us really want to socialize, but it's also going to highlight our wounding very, very directly. It's going to make it come right to the surface. It's going to come through our relationships, and we're going to see the full picture of who we are, who we want to be, right? And the virtue, like actual virtue, we want to bring forward, how we want to shine. Because the sun in Aries is actually the Three of Wands, right? The Three of Wands is ruled by the sun in Aries decan 2. So once the sun comes into the second 10 degrees, the second decan, then it's going to be in its most exalted position. And so leading up to that point, we get a chance to see the full picture before we actually start to identify ourselves with what we have been experiencing so far within ourselves in terms of like who we are. Aries is the root chakra, and very much about the I am that I am. It is the subjective experience. So we're going to see the full picture. We're going to see the full picture of who we are wounds and all, right? We have to see the whole picture and what it's going to do when it shines this light onto the moon in Libra. We are going to have a really clear view about emotionally where we can connect to something that can return us back to source during a very confused search for new values, okay? Like this grand square is going to break something, and we're going to see very clearly within us what it is that we can anchor into, and that gives us an image, something we can apply ourselves to in order to give us a way to connect to source. After a confused but challenging wandering to identify ourselves consciously, it's like great moments in the collective past inspire us for the next cycle, right? We're going to see that within ourselves. What have we already I don't want to say accomplished, but what represents to us individually that gives us a sense of anchoring, something that gives us an image, right? And inspires us for this next cycle, something that was in the past though, something that's already happened, something that is an older cycle, and it is presented to us as, the symbol of mastery. And then that way we have something to look toward, and that's going to be within us. And like I said, we're going to see the full picture of who we are, who we are in our best and our brightest. And it's also going to show us who we are with our faults and our wounding and all of those things. That whole picture is going to show us the whole picture of how we've worked with that in the past. And that's going to be something that is a culmination point for each of us with this full moon. It's also going to show us what hasn't worked and what we need to get rid of, right? I mean, we can't keep all of the imagery that we've used before if we've come to realize it hasn't worked. It isn't going to give us anything to inspire us. And so that also is going to be part of the letting go that each of us are going to do emotionally and internally and subconsciously. I mean, that is the moon, right? Is the subconscious realm. So that's the full moon. So now we get to look at the fact that this full moon is there's two kites in this chart. So the first one that is directly with the whole full moon issue, because it's got the sun here too, right here. See, here's the opposition. Here's the kite right here. Right, here's there's the grand trine, the grand air trine, and look, here's another kite. There's two kites, and they're both connected to the moon. They're both connected to Mars in the North Node. They're both connected to Saturn in Aquarius, and they're both connected to, let's see here. They're both connected to the North Node, right? Not the South Node. That's only this kite. This kite is not connected to the South Node. In the kite, this stuff is connected to the South Node, but the kite itself does not include the South Node of the moon. So you can see the kite here, right? Here's the trine. So you have this trine, right? And what's a kite? Well, it's a way to use the strength of the trine, the grand trine, right? Grand air trine right here. You have the strength of a grand air trine, but it doesn't really motivate you to do anything about it. It's just something that's really strong and structurally sound. The opposition requires some sort of attention. So it's the sextiles to the different points on the trine and the opposition to the last point that really help you ease the tension and to utilize the support of the air trine. So you see, and it's the same thing. There's an air trine here, and the opposition with the nodes, and you have the South Node at the tip. You still have the moon involved as well. So there's a lot of mental acuity and energy and a sense of wanting to apply our knowledge to find inner balance. You have Saturn in Aquarius, which is natural law. I mean, Aquarius is the ability to feel the cosmic law, and Saturn is the law. So, I mean, it's really holding down like, no, this is This is the law. This is cosmic law. Even if you can't see it or touch it necessarily, there is something that moves through all life, and that is the Aquarian archetype. It is the energy that moves through the medium, which is just as real, which is why Saturn was also, I feel like, the ruler of Aquarius before Uranus came and switched up everything. So here is this grand trine that is very balanced in terms of how our mind works and the stability of our mental processes at the time of the full moon. But there's the opposition with all of this fire, right? And so this fire energy that is sextile to Aquarius, it's sextile to Gemini, can really help find the fulcrum of this energy, which is trying to, let go of what's not working, right, with the full moon and Libra. Just, figure out who and what exactly is going to inspire you in a state of chaos within you. Like, who are your masters hanging on your wall that inspire you as you go through this process of sharing your experience with somebody or some other people, right? That's Libra coming into the 7th house. Well, being able to see the full picture of who you are, wounding and all, is really going to help each of us come to terms subconsciously with where we're putting our energy and how we're applying our knowledge about mastering ourselves. It's going to be about being able to see the whole picture of who we each are. And it's also going to be, there is an investment opportunity here with Gemini and with Saturn in terms of realizing that everybody has their role to play. Saturn in Aquarius, like, there's no getting around that. Everybody is a point, is a small string in the vibrating field of consciousness, and everybody is in a different state, and we're all equal in the eyes of God, but at the same time, everybody's on a different level. There's no getting away from that. That is Saturn in that position. And so one way that we can help really make sense of this energy is, like, I see myself, and then I see that I am exactly where I need to be. There's an investment opportunity with the nodes specifically, and Mars too, but definitely the nodes in terms of how, when you see yourself for who you are, the whole picture, and you're not getting pulled, your attention isn't being drawn away to other people trying to monetize your need to find out who you are and the truth about yourself. When you realize who you are and you realize you're exactly where you need to be, you also realize your dharma, and then you have to perform that. You have to perform to the utmost of your ability what you know, and you become a source of inspiration, right? So here's that kite right there. Now, the second kite is here with the South Node being the point of the kite. And so it's still the same players with the Moon and Saturn and Mars and the North Node being in this grand air trine. So our minds really are very stable at this point and can really be the foundation for these investments from fire into, you know what I mean? We can afford to really entertain all of this desirous to see our whole selves energy very easily with our mind. And like I said, investment opportunities, a sextile. So, okay, this part is also very karmic, right? Because you have the nodes of the moon involved. And so the same air trine, but the opposition is now with the nodes and Mars as well. And so the sextile is pointing towards the South Node. And this is why I say this, because the South Node, for as much as it is where we are heading away from, we can't just discard our past entirely, as much as there's going to be opportunities perhaps to do that in the near future, but it provides the momentum for moving forward to where we are going. This is our past. And so we can use what we've learned from the past, just like we take what we've learned from the lunar cycle and then shed away at the full moon, what we have learned is not working for us. Same with the South Node. We know where we've come from. We can use that as momentum. And there's a lot of push to go forward. So we have to kind of look at this. And this point right here, 12 degrees of Sagittarius, Sabian symbol is not fun. Retribution, right? A widow's past is brought to light. It is the idea that at the start of a new cycle, you still have to deal with what is unfinished business from the last one. There's no getting around it. And this is from a very transformative experience. You have to purify your constituent parts before you put them together in an alchemy and create something new. So this is the point of investment here from the moon and from Saturn into this Sagittarius energy in order to really find a balance with Mars and the North Node that is just pulling us. And it's just like we still have to deal with we have to acknowledge where we've come from before we can really let go and push forward. And this is going to be part of being at the top of the roller coaster, right? Because we can't forget about all the momentum that got built going up and up and up and up. If you know, I love being on roller coasters. My spouse does not so much. But what we do together in this realm is that we watch YouTube videos of POV, point of view cameras and videos on these roller coasters. And some of them, especially at Hershey Park, which is in my neck of the woods, is like, 200 to 300 foot drop at like 77 degree decline. When you get to the top, you can't forget how far you've come up there so that you at least are not completely blindsided by how fast you are going to come down this other side and how scary it's going to be. It's going to be a thrill ride. We have to remember that. And so this kite, again, there is this opposition here because it's almost like gravity, really. It's just pulling it back. And we're going forward and Mars is like, come on. So, but we have retribution. Things have to come to light. Ouch. But boy, oh boy, it gives us the momentum to really, push forward. So, okay. All right. So let's see here. I am, yes. All right. So this is the full moon, right? And that full moon in Libra. And there's many other things, but this is the main one, these two kites that are involved and how much that it is the sun and Venus and Chiron all together in Aries, asserting ourselves, our own survival, right? Who we are as people and all of the wounding that goes along with it. And it's okay. How do we do that without getting pulled off our center? Because like I said, when Mercury meets Neptune in Pisces, this is going to be either an incredible awakening peak experience that we can wrap our heads around, or it'll be just the perfect opportunity to insert false light, illusory information, right? This is and make it look like. So we have to be on point. And this full moon is getting us ready, showing us within us who we are, because this is all about our dharma too. So, all right, let's look at the rest of the week just briefly. I don't need to necessarily go through every single transit. So we're going to look here. That's April, right? Here we go. Monday, the 29th. So you'll see the moon is still in Libra. You see that? Okay. The moon is still in Libra, so you can see right here this really strong quincunx to Neptune. Oh, Libra, moon in Libra. Boy, we want everything to just be so balanced and aesthetically pleasing, right? And Libra, it's all about applying what we've learned. It's so innocent sometimes. The scales of justice, right? Venus rules Libra. The scales of justice. It is innocent because you have to be to a certain extent. You can't be, that's why, justice is supposed to be blind. You can't be influenced. And so a moon in Libra, there's a certain amount of purity just in wanting things to be balanced and fair. And as much as we want to give of ourselves and to give what we have to help other people along the way, this quincunx to Neptune is just like, well, that's great, but there's still a mandate coming down, and this is God's plan and not yours. And so it's not it'll just require adjustment, just like every quincunx does. That fall from grace, that wild card moment. that'll maybe help, maybe you'll be able to find a different way to, be compassionate and give people what they need when they can't get it. But this is also with the moon, within us. We're gonna want to find that balance too. We're gonna want to nourish ourselves too. And the quincunx is gonna be like, yeah, but there's the mandate coming down. We have to still apply a peak experience to everyday life here. So, and then you'll see here, the moon is going to, this is on Monday. The moon is going to trine Jupiter, though, so that is certainly going to give us some advocacy and some good luck when it comes to training ourselves and getting our energy really dialed in. And I think this is going to be, this will help us find some balance. We might get kind of pushed off our balance a little bit, but let me look at something real quick here. Response, we can really, we might get knocked around a little bit by this, but then it comes in and is in this trine to Jupiter, and then we can be, we can have a positive response to a potentially new opportunity here, that is very supported and represented, Jupiter as our advocate, by this discipline of our energies. So that, I feel like Monday was, will start to kind of come around again. But of course, and honestly, we'll see how we feel about all of that when the moon comes to square Pluto. We definitely don't want to get away from any Pluto moon aspect whatsoever, because that's always fun. Libra, a Libra moon squaring Pluto in Capricorn. High in the sky. So this is something that we should pay attention to again, because here is this trine still with Saturn in Aquarius to the North Node that was part of this kite. Now, Mars has moved on from there, got his ride on the dragon, and is now taking what has been explored and starting to project it out, right? This is the moment, I think, when, the sprout really starts to unfurl some leaves, maybe grow some more leaves, perhaps, as it is now starting to develop those really baby roots, and that won't come until Cancer time. But this part of the kite is still very active. And again, this is important when it comes to everybody is exactly where they are meant to be. There is a cosmic law that is infusing all of the situation, everything that we know of, and that everybody is in a different place, but no less divine because of it. And really supporting, this is like a piece of rebar staking your tent down, and your tent is really the place where you get to show off your skills, right? Gemini is definitely about skills. You get to show off your skills. You get to be a virtuoso. This is where we're all headed in order to grow. This is about again, what is our dharma and who we are, who we're not, and then being able to act on it, put it out into the world. And Saturn in Aquarius, like I said, this is a piece of rebar staking your tent down. It's very secure. And then the Sun and Venus are going to come into sextile the nodes soon enough. And so again, this whole relationship between actualizing ourselves, bringing to us in our relationships that which we desire, bringing to us the material realm that which we desire to experience, is all still part of this equation here, as the moon is, lonely moon transiting all the way over here by herself. And then she's going to have a square with Pluto and Capricorn. And so we're going to be sailing high, possibly, in our own emotional state, and then crash into the mountains. So that Pluto is just like, yeah, I'm just destroying every pathway, I'm going to erase every hash mark. I'm going to bring down and destroy all routes to the top. And we may have been trying to even like bypass that emotionally, right, with Libra, because we're like, oh yeah, everything is great. Like it's so balanced. And that trine to Jupiter was just like, oh yeah, I can really get it together. And then bam, squared to Pluto and Capricorn. So just be ready for that as well. This is important though. This whole thing over here, this sextile, this trine from Saturn to the North Node is very stable, and we should keep coming back to this when we're struggling. All right. Oh, look at this. And then Mercury meets Neptune in Pisces. So this is all happening right after the full moon. Okay. And so this is that really major revelation, right? That comes to mind, something we can wrap our head around, this peak experience being brought down, the mandate. This is Moses coming down from the mountain with the tablets, okay? This is literally happening in a way that our minds can connect to. And at the same time, so who is Moses and what does it say on the tablets? We really need to know ourselves, so when this information makes its way to us, we know that it's legit, that it is right from God. And I guess you couldn't really, argue too much with Moses, considering everything that he went through. He was probably considered very legit. And then, just bringing up the parting of the Red Sea is just something that comes to mind, but I'm not going to expand on that right this second. Okay. So this is Monday. Let's look at Easter. Okay. Or Good Friday, actually. Let's look at Good Friday into Easter. So the moon has moved through Scorpio, is now in Sagittarius, and so that means the moon is going to soon cross that south node. Remember, the retribution. This is a kind of an interesting... that's not right. Oh, I see what I did. I was like, that's not right at all. Here we go. Ta-da! But the moon is in Sagittarius. Again, and so it's going to meet the South Node. This is on Good Friday, and so that retribution aspect comes right back around again with the South Node, where we've been. We've gone there. We have purified the constituent parts that we have brought together for an understanding of truth. We've done that, and that means we have to, things have to come to light, that before the next cycle, we cannot move forward until things come to light from the last cycle. And that's really what this degree represents, because it's the changeover from abstraction in Sagittarius to transfer, of the archetypal symbols. So Good Friday, we're going to have a very emotional connection to this retribution and things coming to light. And that might have been the case anyway for like right at the very beginning, Thursday into Friday. What else is happening is at the same time is going to trine the sun. So here's the sun in a sextile to the moon, in a sextile to the North Node, meaning it's in a trine to the South Node and the moon, and 13 degrees of Aries. Are we, let's see here. I feel like I read these Sabian symbols and it's like, yeah, duh, I know. Oh, yeah. An unexploded bomb reveals an unsuccessful social protest. Ooh, adolescent frustration. Yeah, we're really going to... Wow. Yeah, so Good Friday is going to be quite the ride, I would say. And we are really going to, and Venus is not that far ahead. So still in this place of really desirous, fierce, hot energy, right? She's very passionate in Aries. She wants what she wants. She wants to actualize herself, and she will bring anything to her that she can in order to do it. Very attractive, very passionate, fiery type of feminine here. And right next to the sun, obviously, so even more so. Oh, yeah, Good Friday. There's going to be there's going to be a lot of frustration, and it's going to be very much aligned with this retribution energy, the fact that we still have to deal with things. I think that's really going to frustrate people, that we still have to deal with things that need to come to the light first before we can move forward in the cycle of alchemy. So how can we, again, here it comes. Each of us can be a virtuoso of our skill set, whatever that is. And once we find out what our dharma is and how we interact with it, this is not hard. We then just go with the flow and let it move through us and show our skills and be a source of inspiration. This is the investment we can make. If we don't do anything, then our frustration is going to just naturally hold up this south node and the moon connection, which is about the retribution. Okay. Now, let's see what else is going on here. This is Good Friday. I think we can, safely say here, let's move to Easter Sunday, right? Easter Sunday, because this is also an important day, because this, at the very end of Easter Sunday, actually, we're going to see that Mercury moves into Aries, right? And so everything that Mercury has been in this dreamy, watery realm, this mystical realm. It's so imaginative and visual. And oh my God, the dreams have just been so vivid and confusing. So confusing. And then finally, everything's starting to consolidate in our minds. We got the big revelation and then past Neptune and Pisces. And now we're about to bring it and consolidate it and come back into the spark of creation with our mind on Sunday. Ooh, that is something else. And the moon will be in Capricorn. So, and we'll also, is going to square. It's going to square, sorry guys. It's going to square the sun, the third quarter square, at 15 degrees Capricorn, 15 degrees Aries. And, are we, this is what I was going to say. If we, crisis in consciousness, right? Like we've seen a lot, and we are going to now be tested again in terms of what we are aligning ourselves with in terms of the knowledge. What are our three masters that we go to in order to find peace of mind and balance within us, right? What is that trifecta in terms of what we've learned about ourselves, and then who has come out as the source of groundedness in a time of confusion? How do we find balance within ourselves? Well, this is going to be a test of which way are we going to give our attention, because the moon is in Capricorn, and it's really focusing on making sure everybody's taken care of, including the younger generation, making sure that the mistakes that have been made are being, there's the resources going into at least trying to mitigate that in a younger generation. But the sun in Aries is going to be like, well, how can I wrap myself in my own divinity, right? One is about the collective, the moon, and the other, the sun, is about each of us individually and our subjective experience of creating reality. Oh boy. So we may emotionally on Easter, especially Easter, we're going to want to help people and take care of each other. And it'll be like really, like emotionally, we'll be really invested in each other, I think. I think that we will, when the moon comes into meet Pluto the next day, that's when we will we'll see if we still feel that way or not when the moon meets Pluto, because there'll be some things coming right up to the surface that are going to challenge whether or not we have the investment still to care about anybody at a children's hospital, because that's the Sabian symbol. So where are we at? This is the 5th. The moon meets good old Pluto here. And Mercury is now in Aries, and really the big ones that are coming are that Mercury is going to come into a conjunction with Chiron, and we're gonna get new symbols. We're going to have an opportunity to see our wounding and our triggers and our shame and guilt of who we are as a symbolic representation of a new cycle, and it's going to be something that we are really actively bringing forward. Mercury in Aries and Mars in Gemini, there's this weird mutual reception, and they're not aspecting, but there is a lot of crossover here in terms of the cardinal energy of creation and the mutability of ideas. Like the sky's the limit here, and we can put anything into form. But this connection here is going to be important because it's going to be bringing that wounding of self to our awareness and giving it a new symbolic representation. What also is happening, this is at the end of the week, right? This is going to be on Friday, the next week. So we also are looking at Mars is going to be in a square to Neptune as well. Right? So Mars is really going to want to start consolidating and bringing organically some of these opposing ideas very forcefully, almost. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I know how to do this now. So, all right, I want everybody to dance. I want everybody to come together and dance, because that's, we all have to come together and we have to share our ideas, and we don't have to give up who we are, but it's kind of forceful. And that's square to Neptune. Again, it's going to be like, well, that's great, but there's a mandate coming down from the mountain. So it doesn't matter what ideas you are trying to force into an organic interaction. The reality is that it's all coming down from the mountain, and that is going to be way more powerful than Mars and Gemini. Just so you know, it's just going to dissolve. It won't even be a square, and it won't even be anything where there's an actual, contact made like in a 90-degree angle. Usually, Neptune will just come and just dissolve it instantly, right? There's no match for Neptune and Pisces. So let's see here. I have to pause this, and I can't. Oh no.